He sees when you've been knitting. He knows when you crochet. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Oh, hey, let's knit a Santa mug hug by Kristen Mangus. Welcome back to another Yarn Inspirations tutorial. I'm your host, Kristen Mangus of GoodKnit Kisses. Let's get started. To download your pattern, click on the link in the description below. Today we are going to knit a Santa mug hug by Kristen Mangus. That's me. Yay! GoodKnit Kisses. So this pattern is on Yarn Inspirations, and you will find the link down below to get your pattern. We have all of our supplies. For contrast A, you'll need a medium 4-weight cotton yarn. We're using Bernat Handicrafter Holidays in color Red Sparkle. For contrast B, C, and D, you will also need a few yards. You will need a bulky 5-weight yarn. For C, we're using Bernat Pipsqueak color Whitey White. And we are using Bernat Handicrafter Cotton, which is a medium 4-weight yarn for contrast C and D. C is black licorice and D is pale yellow. You'll also need a size US 7 or 4.5 millimeter knitting needle or size to obtain the gauge. You will also need a tapestry needle to weave in those pesky tails, and of course your scissors. We are going to be knitting. We'll also be increasing with the knit front back and working on the wrong side with a purl stitch because this is a stockinette stitch. You can see that right here. All the knits are in the front. And then the belt buckle will actually be using the duplicate stitch. And so I'll be going over how to finish this and also sewing it together. The pattern also includes a chart to show you how it all is going to lay out when it's done. The duplicate stitch, which is going to be added on top for the belt buckle, happens afterward. So this is not actually knit with the yellow in it as you go. It's added on after the fact. You'll be increasing on the right side and it actually will fall on the right, but the way the chart is written, we start on the wrong side row, so that's why the numbers are on this side. However, your knitting is going to fall on the right. So in order to not confuse, just use this as a graphic to show you how the colors line up and where the belt buckle is to be worked, and work on knitting with the instructions here. We will go through these row by row off to the side. So grab your supplies and let's get started making your Santa mug hug. For our cast on, we're working with contrast B, which is the Pipsqueak. It's that real bulky, soft fiber here. Now, I'm going to give you a cast on that's quicker to do. It's a backward loop cast on or thumb cast on instead of a knitted cast on or a long tail. So it's faster and it can be loopy, but in this case you won't see it. So you're going to make your slip knot and put it right on your needle. And then we're going to pull out our working yarn here, put our thumb down, twist it around, and slip our needle onto that loop. Okay, pull it not too tight because it can be too tight to work with if you do that. And then you can just put your index finger on this loop here to keep the stitch from getting too tight. On the next one, pull it out, put your thumb down, twist around, scoop it up, and get the next stitch. I've got 3 stitches on here. You're going to need 30. So pause your video and get 30 stitches on your needles, and we'll continue on with this pattern. See you soon. All right, all of our stitches are on. We want to make sure and line it up so they're not twisted. You're going to have to feel with this one. It's going to be a little bit bulkier along that edge, so make sure they're all lined up. And go ahead and grab your needle, and we're just going to knit across. Now this first row is a wrong side row, and so we're just going to knit. So knit across all stitches, and then you're going to break your yarn, and we will add on our main color, which is contrast A. That's the red sparkle. Pause your video, and I will see you soon. And we're on our second row, and we need to knit this. This is actually the right side of our work. I've already cut my tail for contrast B, and I want to hold it behind my work. Okay, so I've got it held behind that needle on the left. I'm going to pick up the new yarn and hold it in the back, and then we're just going to insert for the first stitch and knit. Okay, so that just gets our first stitch there, and we're going to knit across all the stitches, getting our new yarn on. So you're going to do this and pause your video, and I'll meet you back up to show you the purl stitch. I'm knitting this video understanding that you already know how to knit. You already know the main knit stitch. I will show you how to do a purl slower. But if you need a slower tutorial for making these stitches, click on the link in the description below or our playlist for your slower tutorials from GoodKnit Kisses. All right, pause your video and I will see you soon. Okay, let's turn our work and we're going to purl this next row. This is the third row and we purl across. So when we're on the back side, we want to stick our needle into the front leg of this stitch here, and we're gonna yarn over that needle, and then we're just pushing that yarn through to the other side. So you're taking it and pushing it through this hole here, and pushing all the way back, and then letting it go. And that creates that purl stitch. Let's do it again. We're gonna put it in that leg there, yarn over, and push it through, and let the old one fall off, and you've got that stitch. It looks like a little scarf on the bottom of that right there. So purl across, pause your video, and I'll meet you back up to give you more instructions. See you soon. All right, we're starting our fourth row back on the right side, and you can see that we're starting to get those V stitches, classic of a stocking knit stitch. We're going to knit the first stitch just as normal. So knit one. And then the second stitch we are going to increase. We're going to knit front and back. So you knit the stitch and pull it through, and don't drop this stitch off of your left needle. Then you're going to twist around and put the needle into the back of that stitch, and that is going to be working in the back of the stitch. Now you have two options. You can do the quicker version of a knit and back loop and actually just slide it onto this right needle now in that new position, or you can knit the stitch. The classic way is to knit that stitch from the back loop and you have two loops, or you can actually slide it onto there. So you get a clean, very clean look with this method. And I've worked up actually my sample in both. So just continue by knitting across on this row. And then after this row, so this is the increase row. And then after this row, you're going to purl, and that will be the fourth and fifth rows. Then you're going to repeat that one more time. So you will make another increase row and another purl row. And then, so do that while your video is paused, and we'll meet back up and we will join in for our second, or actually our third yarn, which will be the black yarn for the belt. All right, pause your video and I will see you soon. Now we're going to carry this red yarn up the side of the work. So it's just going to lay here for a moment. And we're going to grab our black yarn, which is contrast C, and put it in the back like we did before. And get our needle and insert into that first stitch. And we're going to knit with our black. And then we're going to let that drop off and then keep going. Now it's going to be loose on that first one, so you can just take that red thread there and pull it, and then just leave it alone, and it's going to stay that way until we come back after making our returning row, and then we'll just be grabbing this one again. So what you need to do is knit across, there are no increases, and then purl your way back on the wrong side row. Continue that, pause your video, and I will see you soon, and we'll join back up on the red color, contrast A. See you soon. All right, so we are ready to break this yarn C. I've already cut that, and we're going to be carrying the red up here. So you've now made your belt section, you're halfway through. You're going to knit this first stitch, and remember to keep this red one a little loose, so we're not going to try and pull it very tightly. So just leave it nice and loose, and we're just knitting across, and then you'll return by purling. Now, once you've done that, then you're ready to start on with the 9th and the 10th. I'm sorry. Once you've done that, you will be ready to go on the 10th row, which is where we increase, and then we'll repeat that 9th row. The 11th row is a repeat of the 9th where we just purl on the back. So you're always purling on the wrong side here, and then you're going to increase. So really, you're doing the rows 8 through 11, just as you did on rows 2 through 5, and then you use that repeated last 2 rows again, just like you did earlier. After the 5th row, you repeat rows 4 and 5 again. So in this one, you'll repeat rows 10 and 11. So you can refer back to that part where you've done the increasing. So you knit row, purl a row, increase a row, purl a row, and then you increase a row and purl a row. Okay, and so that's how that's done. And then it's going to look identical. When we return, we will be working on joining back up with this fuzzy yarn here, the pipsqueak, and finishing this up here. We will work those last few rows together, bind off, and then seam the mug hug up. All right, continue working, refer back to that earlier part of the video, and I will see you soon. All right, so you're just going to join B after you have cut your yarn A. Okay, so you don't need this red anymore. We're just going to join as normal and knit that row. In fact, you're going to knit 2 rows, and then we're going to cast off or bind off together. So go ahead and knit those 2 rows, and pause your video, and I'll meet you back up when you get to the cast off row. See you soon. All right, so after 2 rows, we're going to cast off. You're just simply going to knit the first 2 stitches and then make that first stitch that you knit go up and over. We're going to pass it over the second one, and that will cast off that 1 stitch. So now you just repeat by knitting the next stitch and then pass that first stitch over the second stitch, and just continue on with your row or remaining stitches, and then you just finish off by pulling that last loop through when you get all the way to the end. So continue with that, and I'll meet you back at that last stitch. See you soon. Okay, we've got our last stitch. We're going to pass that over, and then you can just cut your yarn and then pull that on out. So now we're going to do the duplicate stitch before we weave in any tails or sew up the side. It will actually be sewn up just like this, and it was easier to make the duplicate stitch first before we move on. All right, pause your video and get your supplies. You're going to need your contrast D, which is this yellow color, or you can use a gold or whatever color you want for your belt buckle, and you're going to need your wide-eyed tapestry needle. Pause your video and I'll see you in a moment. All right, so let's make the duplicate stitch, and what this is it's just duplicating the V of a stitch. So let's look over here and see how these columns here all line up. And you can clearly see that there's a V here with this yellow yarn. It's just going right on top of a V over here. So if we look at our diagram, it just looks like squares, right? And so it makes it easy to kind of count over and say, oh, I have to go over 14 squares and then this starts or whatever. And we're just going on top of what was here before. So to look at this diagram, this is going to show you exactly what I'm going to show you in the video. But what it's explaining is the yarn comes from the back side or the wrong side up through the bottom of this V. So this is a V like this. And then this is the tip of that V, and it comes out. So it's not a V upside down like this. It's actually this column here combining these stitches. So it comes up through here, and then you're going to be going up to the V above it and go through both of these bumps. And then what happens when you pull that through, it actually covers up this stitch here. You see on this side how it covers it up. And then when your needle comes out, then you go back down to the stitch that you came up through, and it covers up this stitch. Then to just move over to another stitch, if you want to move over to this side, you would go through these bumps over here, and then it makes it come upward to start it all over again. You would come up, and then you would go through these up here and keep going on and on. If you wanted to go up a row, once you have come back down that last stitch, you would come up through here where you had just above where you had just made these stitches, and then you would continue on. So let's do this in practice back here. Okay, so I've got my needle already showing where I want it to go through. I've marked where my belt buckle is going to be. I've just kind of counted my stitches over here. And I know that I want to start on this side and work my way over this way. You can work it whichever direction you want. I just pick a direction and go in that direction. So I'm going to come up through this V here. Okay. And just leave a nice generous tail in the back so I don't pull that out by accident. And now I want to work through this stitch above it. So I've got this V stitch here, and then I want to go in the side of this black color here and the side of this other black here up in that belt area. Make sure to go through all of your strands. Okay, we're going to pull our yarn all the way through. So you only need about a yard of yarn here, and then we're going to go down where we came out through. Okay, so we're just going to go down. So what that did is it covered up part of the V on this side for the first pass, and then it covered up the other side of the V for that pass. So we make a decision if we want to go up from here or over from here. So if we wanted to go up in this direction, then you would take your yarn that's in the back and come up through the bottom of this stitch that we just made, and you come up here and go over just like we did before. So you're just going to continue doing that, and then you're going to have to move over to the left. So let's just go ahead. So that's what we'll do when we get over here. But what we want to do when we moved over here is we're going to go up through the bottom of this next stitch. Okay, pull all your yarn through. Okay, now when you pull it, make sure to not pull your stitch too tight because you don't want this to pucker in. You want to just basically lay right over the stitch. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did again. You can also go directionally through this side of the stitch as well. So I can go through this direction or I can go through the other one. So let's just show you that you can face it a different way. And we're going to go down. So make sure and don't pull those too tight. You just want them to lay over the top of your stitch. All right, so now we've got the start of that belt buckle, and we're going to continue on to the next one and lay that over the top of that stitch, picking up the stitches in the V above and come down. And I had marked with a stitch marker where this last one was, so now when I do it, I know I don't need to continue on and I can go up from there. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to go up from here to the next stitch. And that's all you do. And now you know how to get your duplicate stitches on here. So just jump up to the next line. So I'm on the black above it. And then I go back down through that stitch again. And then you could even move your needle and go up above here and get ready for that next stitch. Okay, I actually pulled through and I went up here, and actually I need to go down a little bit more, so I really wasn't looking at my stitches carefully. So this is actually one stitch above where this stitch is. It may not feel like it, but there's a ladder here. See, if I'm pulling on it, you can feel that there's this ladder yarn back here. So I want to come up here and pull through. Oh, got my tails, I keep going around. Okay, and then now I'm going to go around this red yarn that's up here. And then go down again. And I'm going to need one more stitch up. So I'm just going to go down through this stitch here, and then I'm going to go up underneath one of those ladder yarns and come up here. So that's how I'll solve that. Okay. All right, so now I just need that one last stitch and go up one more row on that red, and then we'll go down. All right, so then you just continue your stitches. If you get one that pulls too much, just come through here and kind of adjust it before you move on. Okay, and oops, I did it again, see? Make sure it's covering up those stitches, and then move on and go all the way down, and then I'll meet you back up when you finish your last stitch. See you soon. All right, so I'm on the home stretch. I've just got a couple of stitches left to do. So you can go through these duplicate stitches on the front here or you can go all the way through the back where that red is. Okay, I'm going to go through the back of the red just to show you how that looks. If you go through the yellow, it may pucker too much. So let's pull this on out and get this last stitch in here. I'm going to go through this black yarn. And then go down, and then this should finish this out. Okay, so I've got my belt buckle on, and then now you just need to flip it over and then get your tails woven in. You can also just tie that in a knot to get that connected. I'm going to go through one of these loops here and make a loop and go back through that one time. And then I'm just going to tie this together in a knot. Okay. All right, so I've got a nice square knot and clip my yarn. All right, so we've got our belt buckle done, and we need our tapestry needle now. We're going to weave it in using or sew it in the edges with this red tail here. I like to use at the top and the bottom one of these white pieces to connect them in the white area, but the red and the black are all just going to get sewn together. So let's turn this to where the top is towards your hand, and I'm going to thread my needle. Okay, grab the other side, and we want to go through the red part on the other side, just go up through one of the stitches. And there's a lot of forgiveness in this pattern because this white yarn is so fluffy. You don't have to feel like, oh, I've got to do it in the right exact spot. So just get it about in the right spot. And I'm going to grab this red one more time just to get a nice good connection. Okay, so I'm going to go through this stitch here, this column. Now this column may look a little jumbly. We're going to make a seam on here so it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to go over to this left side here, and there's this nice straight column. I'm going to go through these stitches on this first column here where I can get to the ladder yarn. I'm just going to pick that up and pull it through. I'm going to go over to the right and go through that first column stitches where I can really see it and pick up in between the columns and that ladder yarn there as well. So just pull on through there and then go zigzag over to the other side and do the same. Just go one stitch down from where you were before and pull it on through, and then go over to the other side again and pick up another one of those ladder yarns and pull it on through, and do the same on the left. So you're just going to keep repeating across. And then I'm going to go over to the right, and when we get closer to where the color change happened, you're going to need to make sure that it is lined up right here. I'm going to go over to the left and pick up through the ladder yarn here and go over here. Oops. Pulling through one of my tails. There we go. And go to the right. Make sure those rows are lined up. Okay. And back over to this side. And then I'll pull up a black ladder yarn here. I want to pull a black one up on this side. And lets me know that I'm keeping my rows lined up. I'm going to go to this left side over here, and I'll pull up another black one. And then the right side over here, I should find another black one. I keep getting that tail that's in the back. There we go. Okay, so you should only do one ladder yarn of black on each side like left and then right, and then one more down, left and then right, because you only had 2 rows of that. So now just continue picking these stitches up and moving side by side. Remember, this just did have an increase on it, so it's not going to be lined up perfectly because we had this angled increase here. Anyway, so I'm just going to keep picking these stitches up, and then when we get to the end, we're going to let it go to the back, and then you just weave in your tails. Almost done. All right. So if you pulled it tight, you could see that this is freely, like it's going to pull it in. And that means that you've got it all cinched in as one seam. Okay, so now I'm going to just put my yarn to the back through this other side here and turn my sleeve inside out. And then we've got a little seam here. And I'm just going to go through one of these opposite stitch sides and leave a little loop and pull it on through. And on this particular one, I could either just cut a knot or weave in my tails. I'm just going to go through and weave in a few tails. Until I get back to this other one. And then I'm going to tie together these 2 pieces. And normally I wouldn't do this, but there's just so much that's going to get hidden in this particular pattern that I don't have to worry about it being precise. This is not a sweater or anything. All right. So then you've got these parts that need to be connected that are in the white. Go ahead and weave in your black tails, and then you're just going to connect these 2 pieces, connect the tops and the bottoms, and you will be finished. So I'll join you back up and show you what it looks like. For help on joining these fluffy yarns, I'm just going to the tail that belongs to the very end, and I'm going from the opposite, I'm going to the opposite side to connect it from the end. And pull that on through, and then I'm just going to go up to the opposite side again, and we're just going to basically follow along the seam line and picking up the stitches from this back side. It's really hidden, and it's hard to see the stitches as we did with the stockinette part. So now once I've got it to the end here, I can go ahead in this particular case again and just tie a knot, and I just did it that way because it's the easiest way right now. I mean, quite frankly. So there's no right or wrong in this circumstance. You just want to make sure it looks good. Okay, so I'm just going to flip that back. Here's the seam that we did up the back, and here is your belt buckle. And it looks like Santa came to town. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed making your Santa mug hug by Kristen Mangus. That's me. On behalf of Yarn Inspirations and GoodKnit Kisses, I'm your host, Kristen, wishing you happy knitting and happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Bye, everyone.